Hina Matsuri is a show that I really enjoyed watching this last season of anime stuff. But it's one that I don't have much to say about, and I think that stems from the fact that it's a fairly simple comedy. The weird part of this is honestly, I enjoyed this show more than I've enjoyed most shows that I've watched recently. It was a great time. It was a lot of fun. It's the perfect type of show to put on after a long day of work and to just sit down and mellow out and have a good laugh before going to sleep, in my case, because I work until late in the evening. It was just the perfect way to wind down. And the thing with these shows that help people wind down is oftentimes there isn't all that much to say about it because you can just watch the show to figure out what's going on. So this is basically my way of saying I think you should watch this show even though I have very little to say about it. If I had to describe Hina Matsuri to you to give you some concept of the plot, it's basically a slice of life comedy that involves a Yakuza member taking care of a little psychic girl. And that's about all you need to know about the premise. This show consistently made me laugh out loud, it was dramatic and appealing, and it managed to have some genuinely emotional moments without being too cheesy because the show knows that it's a comedy and it always trends back towards those comedy roots. It really fully commits to its sense of humor, too. The directing, the pacing, the dialogue, the delivery of that dialogue, the music, the sound design, all of it. It really sells you on the jokes in a way that reminds me quite a bit of something like Nichijou. There were characters in this show that I cared more about than most characters in most shows, and sometimes that's something that comedies can struggle with, is actually getting you to feel invested in any of the plots because, even if something's serious for the characters, oftentimes it's getting played up as too much of a joke, but that's part of the tightrope, that's part of the balancing act that Hinamatsuri manages to do a very good job of going along with. It allows room for its characters to take these situations seriously. It allows room for them to learn from what they're doing. For example, there's one character who can never say no to anything, and this leads to a lot of negative things happening in her life, but also some positive ones, and she has to realize that there's a certain good thing that comes from working really hard and from always pushing forward, but that also at some point you have to start saying no. And that's not a very complex message to give to a viewer. That's not something unique by any stretch of the imagination, but it's really nice to see something like that in a comedy without it becoming just disgustingly cheesy, because I find a lot of the time when a comedy tries to go towards those moments, it can be kind of painful to watch because it feels like the creators don't quite know why you're watching this show. It's hard to describe why this show manages to have both of these tones and both of these ideas going at once, the serious and the silly, but largely it's just because it lets the things on the screen speak for themselves. It doesn't give you a judgment call. There's very rarely a character talking to you, basically saying, here's the moral of the story, here's the thing that happened. They let you put that together. They let you piece those things together and decide how funny or how serious it is. And a lot of the time, it's both at the same time. This show also has some very impressive, very dynamic animation to it, and even when it's not moving a lot, it looks consistently nice and it's very well produced. It's very pleasant to look at. And while that isn't the most important thing when it comes to watching one of these shows, it is important, and it's an aspect of the series that I was consistently impressed with. The consistency and quality does go a long way in making the show enjoyable and feel cohesive across episodes. So basically, if you're looking for a comedy, if you're looking for a show to help you unwind, to get you laughing quite a bit, I think, at least for me, it got me to laugh quite a bit, then I do think you should check out this show. I think it's definitely worth your time. It's short, it's just the 12 episodes, all of them are out now, and if you manage to miss out on this one, definitely check it out. If you've already seen this one, I hope to hear from you in the comments about what you thought about it. I also want to thank my patrons over on patreon.com/Lowart. They are great and supportive, and I love them all. I love you all. You're all great, and it's awesome, and bye-bye.